Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a whole stack of guys on financial strategy. Our goal, to boil it all down into a simple, clear path for you to build real wealth and financial freedom. We're skipping the buzzwords, really getting into the nuts and bolts here. Control, commitment. That's the focus.
That's exactly right. Look, the mission today is, well, critical. We want to pull out the truly actionable bits from all this material, turning those vague wishes, I want to be rich, into specific things you can actually do, starting now. This isn't a quick fix, obviously. It's about strategy, about discipline, the habits that make security, well, almost inevitable.
Right. And we've broken this down into three main chunks. First up, the foundation you just can't skip, nailing down your vision and getting total control over your money right now. Then we'll shift gears to accelerating growth consistency, getting rid of debt, simple investing, and finally, building resilience. Future-proofing your plan with protection and the right mindset. So let's jump right in, defining that destination.
Building that clear vision. Yeah, that's absolutely step one. The core idea we found, really, is that most plans fail not because the market tanks, but because the goal itself was just fuzzy. You can't just aim for more money. That doesn't work. You've got to define the life you actually want in detail, real precise detail.
Yeah, I like that focus on precision. It's not just a dream. It's picturing your ideal day, isn't it? Like, where do you want to live? What kind of house? How much freedom do you really need in your schedule? The guides seem to suggest filtering every spending choice through that lens. Does this get me closer to that specific life?
Mm-hmm. But the vision alone is just, well, a nice idea until you actually cost it out, put a price tag on it. What's fascinating and maybe a bit daunting is you have to put numbers on it, calculate the yearly cost of that life you want, then project it forward, with inflation, and then work backwards, reverse engineer the path. That forces you to figure out, okay, how much capital do I actually need and what return rate is realistic to get there?
Reverse engineering. Yeah, that sounds intense. It definitely takes the wishful out of wishful thinking. But what happens when you run the numbers and reality bites? Like your current income or debt makes that timeline seem impossible.
Well, that's actually where the vision gets stronger, or it should. A solid plan has to include a realistic way to tackle those big hurdles. Maybe it's aggressive debt pay down first. Maybe it's finding ways to boost your income. Like right now, the material is super clear on this. If your plan ignores where you are today, it's basically designed to fail.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this control part then. We have the map, the vision. Now we need control of the car, our money. The advice seems pretty blunt here. Before you change anything, you need to know exactly where every single dollar is going. All income sources, every single expense. Get that honest picture first.
Absolute honesty, yeah. And that feeds directly into structuring your money management. The recommended approach is pretty straightforward. 3 buckets for expenses. Needs the absolute essentials. Want stuff that's nice but not essential. And obligations, fixed payments like loans, maybe subscriptions.
And the sources often mention that proportional framework, right? The 50-30-20 rule. That seems effective because the percentages keep things in balance, even if your income changes. So 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and that crucial 20% for savings and paying down debt, always adding up to 100%.
Exactly. But here's a nuance, a practical point that often gets missed. What if, for you listening were really expensive? And housing, basics. They push your needs way past 50%.
That's a really good question, because that 20% for savings, that feels non-negotiable for the long haul, doesn't it?
It absolutely is, and the guidance addresses this directly. If needs go over 50%, you have to cut back aggressively on the wants first. Say needs hit 65%. Then wants have to shrink down to maybe 15% just to protect that vital 20% savings rate. And if you still can't make it work, well, then there are only 2 real options left. Earn more money or make strategic changes to lower your cost of living until that 20% minimum is possible. It forces some tough decisions.
Also really important for keeping the system stable, sinking funds. I feel like this gets overlooked a lot, but it stops the whole budget from falling apart when big expenses hit. These are like separate little pots of money you build up over time for costs you know are coming. Annual insurance, property taxes, car repairs.
Think of it like this, yeah. Car insurance is $1,200 due in December. So you save $100 a month for it, starting in January. Easy. By funding these predictable costs bit by bit, you smooth things out. Those big, unavoidable bills don't suddenly blow a hole in your checking account, forcing you into savings or, even worse, onto a credit card.
Right. And keeping this whole structure working needs visibility, constant awareness, which is why the guides really push for consistent daily tracking of spending. It makes abstract choices concrete, turns them into data. It's not about guilt. It's just knowing.
And the sources point out how those small, almost invisible transactions, that daily coffee convenience fees, they really do add up big time. Tracking is really the only way to catch those leaks.
Plus, there's a psychological win too, isn't there? Just knowing you have to write down a purchase later makes you pause, think twice. That little bit of friction. It disrupts impulse buys. It's instant control in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got the map, the vision, we've built the tracking system for control. How do we now shift from just, managing things to actually building momentum, getting ahead? That brings us neatly into section 2, accelerating that growth.
And what really jumps out here is the focus on taking willpower out of the savings equation. The advice is pretty consistent. Savings shouldn't be optional. It needs to be a fixed percentage of your income. And crucially, it has to be automated. Set up an automatic transfer to a separate account the second your paycheck lands. You basically treat savings like a utility bill. You pay yourself first, period.
Yes. And for anyone seeing their income go up, the strategy of saving your raises is probably the single best defense against lifestyle inflation. You get a 5% raise.
Yeah.
You immediately bump up your automated savings by, say, 3% or 4%. You never even really see that extra money in your main account, so your spending habits don't get a chance to expand to absorb it. Brilliant.
But it's not just about saving more. Cutting expenses still matters. Specifically, targeting costs that offer little or maybe no real lasting value. This is where you audit everything recurring, right? Unused subscriptions, those annoying bank fees, maybe daily habits that have become just mindlessly expensive.
The key is challenging assumptions. What do you really need? We found this great example. Someone calculated their $5 daily coffee was costing them over $1,800 a year. That's enough to fully fund their sinking funds for car maintenance and insurance for the entire year. It's about consciously reallocating.
Okay, now here's a behavioral trick that I found really interesting. A specific strategy to fight impulse buys, the purchase waiting list.
Huh?
So you get that urge for something non-essential. Instead of buying it, you just write it down and wait.
And the waiting period is key,
Mm-hmm.
usually 24 to 72 hours. Why? Because that initial emotional rush, that craving, it often fades pretty quickly. Giving it that time helps you sort out a genuine need or something that actually aligns with your values from just a temporary whim, maybe driven by an ad or boredom.
All right, let's shift to maybe the biggest accelerator, getting rid of debt. Because true financial freedom fundamentally means reaching the point where 100% of the money you earn actually belongs to you, not to lenders.
That's the goal, isn't
Yeah.
it? Freedom. Now, strategy-wise, the sources cover the two main methods. You've got the avalanche method, tackling highest interest rates first. Mathematically, that saves you the most money. Or the snowball method, paying off the smallest balances first. That gives you quick wins, builds psychological momentum. Look, both work. The real difference maker is commitment, sticking to whichever one you choose.
But there's a crucial safety net the guides emphasize, something you need before you go all in on aggressive debt repayment. And that's a small starter emergency fund, like maybe $1,000 or 1 month's essential expenses. Why? So if the unexpected happens, car trouble, broken appliance while you're throwing everything at debt, you don't have to fall back on high-interest credit and undo all your progress.
Yeah.
Stability first.
Right, stability first. Then, once debt is under control, the focus can shift towards investing. And the advice here is strongly tilted towards building wealth reliably, not necessarily quickly, slow and steady. That means focusing on simple long-term assets, things designed for steady growth over time.
So we're talking things like low-cost index funds, maybe broad market ETFs, government bonds for some stability. Just quickly, for listeners maybe not familiar, what exactly is an index fund and why is it the go-to here?
Sure. An index fund basically lets you buy the entire market or a huge slice of it, like the S&P 500. Instead of trying to pick winning stocks, you own tiny pieces of hundreds, even thousands of companies. This spreads out your risk massively. You're betting on the long-term growth of the overall economy, not individual companies. It avoids the stress, the guesswork, and honestly, the often high fees of trying to outperform the market average.
And so what here? The big takeaway of that passive approach is that it relies entirely on two incredibly powerful yet kind of quiet forces in finance: patience and the magic of compounding over many years, decades even. It's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market, right? Every dollar invested starts earning returns, and then those returns earn returns. It's that slow upward curve that builds serious wealth over time.
Perfectly put, which leads us right into the final phase,
Yeah.
building resilience, future-proofing. We've talked about saving and growing, but protecting what you build is absolutely non-negotiable.
Got to build that safety net strong. The emergency fund needs to cover 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses, just the stuff in that needs bucket we talked about. And if your income is less predictable, maybe commission based or freelancers, you might need more, maybe 9 to 12 months worth.
And critically, that money has to be liquid, easily accessible, and safe. So think high-yield savings accounts, maybe short-term T-bills, definitely not speculative stuff like crypto or individual stocks. It needs to be there, untouchable for anything but a true emergency.
Beyond the cash buffer, the sources really hammer home the importance of insurance as strategic defense. Most people get car and home insurance, sure, but they often forget to insure their single biggest asset.
Their ability to earn an income, yeah, paramount. That means having solid disability insurance. If you get sick or injured and can't work, that's what pays the bills. And then, as you start actually accumulating some assets, strong liability insurance becomes vital, usually an umbrella policy. This shields your savings, your home, everything from a potentially ruinous lawsuit. Think of them as the walls around your financial fortress.
Okay, let's talk mindset. Because all the tactics in the world don't work without the right philosophy underpinning it all. The real power seems to come from defining what enough actually looks like for you personally, and then making the conscious choice to live well below your means no matter what your peers are doing.
Exactly. And this isn't about, painful sacrifice. It's strategic. It gives you options.
Yeah.
When your basic cost of living is deliberately kept low as a fraction of your income, you create this amazing financial buffer. That buffer becomes an offensive tool. You can weather job loss easily. You can take calculated risks in your career. You could even switch to a lower-paying job you love because you simply don't need every dollar coming in just to get by.
And to really maximize that freedom, actively working to increase your income is key. The guides get specific here, advising you move beyond just general skills. Focus on stacking complementary abilities, creating a unique high-value skill set.
Yeah, this is smart. Instead of just being, say, a good programmer, maybe you combine coding skills with really compelling public speaking. Suddenly, you're not just a coder, you're a technical evangelist. That's rare, commands a premium. Or maybe you blend data analysis expertise with strong storytelling. Now you're not just giving numbers, you're crafting strategy, influencing decisions. That kind of intentional skill stacking makes you much harder to replace and justifies significantly higher pay.
And finally, something often underestimated, your daily environment. It hugely impacts your discipline. The sources stress committing to daily financial education. Even just 15 minutes a day, it builds confidence, helps replace old scarcity thinking with, well, an abundance mindset, and keeps you aware of opportunities and risks.
And don't forget the social environment rule. Who you spend time with matters a lot. If you surround yourself with people who are already disciplined with money, who practice smart habits, it just normalizes that behavior. It reduces the pressure to keep up with expensive trends that ultimately just derail your own long-term goals.
So, wrapping this all up, what's the big picture? I think the main takeaway is that financial freedom isn't really about luck or timing. Not fundamentally. It seems to be the direct, almost inevitable result of making consistent, intentional choices. Choices based on a crystal clear personal vision, backed up by automated habits, discipline, and those crucial protective strategies.
And the best plan isn't set in stone. It's a living thing. It needs ongoing commitment and, this is key, regular review. The guidance generally suggests a weekly check-in, maybe just 15 minutes. Look at your tracking, adjust sinking funds if needed, just confirm you're still heading towards your goals.
The path seems simple enough on paper, but it absolutely demands action. Relentless action, maybe. You'll probably find that slow, steady progress in the right direction feels infinitely better than rushing towards some vague, undefined future. The discipline you build now, getting control of your money, that really becomes the confidence and freedom you'll rely on later.
You really are equipped now. You have the tools to turn those fuzzy goals into actual measurable progress, something inevitable. So here's a thought to leave you with. If you had to pick just one habit to focus on starting today, automating savings, tracking daily spending, or using that purchase waiting list, which single action would be the most powerful first step towards making your future financial security not just a hope, but a certainty?